much made up things and some truth in the middle, that it truly is one of those cases that you can't really summarize really the everything. So you either leave some parts out, and I feel like in this case, if we do that, we are not getting the whole picture and the perspective on both sides. The Peterson's part or side, and the Rojas, and the truth, which lays somewhere in the middle. And you guys know that I like to research and share these cases just because I feel like there is always something we can learn from either a human being or just from the situation itself and what we can do better. So, not that this could have been avoided. I'm not saying that. Some people take it that way. I am not saying that this could have been avoided. All I'm saying is there's always something we can get out of these horrible cases that I wish never happened. I am not going to start with the details themselves of where they met, but if you want an idea behind Laci and Scott, basically they met while they were in college. Laci gave him her phone number. They started dating. They fell in love. They got married. Scott, in the beginning, he was playing golf and trying to go into professional, I don't know how to call it, but he wanted to do that. He was really good at it, but he had a friend who was a little better than him and got a different opportunity, and it is said that that discouraged him a little bit about pursuing that career. So, this is a young couple, got married, seemed like they were very, very happy, and now, all of a sudden, on December 24th, 2002, Laci was pregnant. She was about 8 months pregnant. It was going to be that Christmas, you know, the Christmas before their son, Connor, is going to be born. And I think that once you're pregnant and it's your first child, you're always thinking in the back of your mind, you know, this is, I don't know, my last birthday as a woman, and next time I'll be not only a woman, but I will always be a mother. And you start realizing all the changes in everything that really are about to happen. So I can only imagine what Laci was going through. Excited. You can see every single picture of Laci smiling with her belly, and overall you could see even Scott being super smiley and seemingly happy about it. But on December 24th, Stewart show was on, and Laci loved that show. Now, she was also cleaning up and working on the kitchen floor, mopping, and she mentioned to Scott that she was going to take the dog for a walk. At that point, Scott says, it's kind of cold to go golfing, so instead I am gonna go fishing. This is something that Scott said recently in I don't know, I think it was some kind of a phone interview. I think it happened around 2017. But I find it very interesting that both things are outdoor. And you'd think that in the water it'd be colder. Not that they get super cold in, the coastal area, but it's still, I would think that it's still colder than going golfing. But what do I know? I am not a golfer, and I've never been to wherever he golfed, and so maybe that sounds perfectly normal to Laci that day. Laci was described as somebody who wanted to be like a perfect housewife, and not because she had very high standards, which she could have had, but what I mean is that she enjoyed doing all the housewife activities that at least she had at the time. So it was pretty normal that she was going to stay and do the chores around the house, not because she had to, but because she liked to. At around 9:20, between 9:20 and 9:40 a.m. that same morning, a witness, which was a neighbor, saw Scott outside loading some umbrellas in the back of his truck. The neighbor said hi. They kind of waved to each other, and Scott's ends up leaving to go to his warehouse, that it's only about 3 miles away from home. I'm assuming that he mentioned this to Laci, and this is something very well known. He had to do a quick stop before actually going fishing. Now, according to record, Scott was at the warehouse on his computer between 10:30 and 10:56 a.m. He was sending emails. He was he was trying to learn more about a tool that he purchased. And when he was done with the computer at around 10:56, he hooked the boat and went to the Berkeley Marina. Now, there is a lot that happened at that time that we'll learn later on, but that is what has been approved and shared by the police, used in court. So there are a few witnesses that I hope you understand that since they were not in the trial and since they were not used, I am still going to share them, but in another part of this series. So if you know about those witnesses and you're kind of upset because I haven't mentioned them, don't worry, I know about them. I'll talk about them in probably part 3 of this series. Now, at around 10:18 back at home, a neighbor, Karen Servas, saw the couple's dog outside. The dog's name was Mackenzie, and she had her leash on and her collar, but nobody was with her. She assumed that maybe she got out of the yard, so she opened the gate, put Mackenzie inside, and then left. Now Scott has a receipt that shows that he was at the marina at around 12:54. And according to record, he stayed in the water between 1 and 2 p.m. At 2:15, he called Laci home and the cell, so he tried both numbers, but he ends up leaving a message. In the message, he mentions is 2:15. I can't make it to buy the basket for Papa. I was wondering if you could go. Love you. And then he ends the call. Those were not the exact words, by the way, but it's a very well-known message that has been played over and over again. So, by 4:30 p.m., he is back at the warehouse. He parked the boat and went home. When he gets there, she wasn't there. He noticed the dog with the leash in the back. The door was unlocked. It's kind of weird. But he assumed that she is at her mom's. He didn't really get worried or anything, so he continued with what he was doing, which was putting his clothes in the washer, grabbed some pizza from the fridge, some milk, took a shower, put clean clothes, and then he started thinking, well, is she out at her mom's? Why didn't she call? It was interesting, and so he decided to call Laci's mom, Sharon. And this was around 5:17 p.m. He's like, is Laci there? She said no. And then he starts to explain, well, Laci's car is here. The dog is here. But she isn't. Again, I am not sure under what circumstances, Laci would leave without her car to go to her mom's. But I'm pretty sure that there must be some kind of an explanation. He either thought that she was picked up, or maybe that that she walked. Not sure exactly, but that's what he told Laci's mom. And she got worried immediately. By 5:47, Laci's stepfather calls 911 and reports Laci missing. He tells a dispatcher that she's 8 months pregnant, that according to his son-in-law, she took the dog for a walk in the park, that the dog came back, but she didn't. 10 minutes later, at 6 p.m., police arrived, and Scott was at the Loma East La Loma Park with Sharon, his mother-in-law, and they were looking for Laci. The police really didn't know what to think of it at first. When they got to the house, everywhere it seemed like I don't know, it seemed like a regular house. No signs of struggle. No, not broken into. No blood. It was almost like, yeah, indeed, she went for a walk and never came back. But of course, in these cases, the husband must be cleared out immediately. So they took Scott in for an interview. He basically went through that morning as I shared with you in the beginning. And after he gives them that timeline of events, the police asked him, Is everything okay in the marriage? Have you guys been fighting? Anything out of the ordinary lately? And Scott said, we are a happy couple. We love each other. No, we have no marital problems. And that is the short version of what he said. By December 25th, Scott's parents learned about what was going on. They lived in the San Diego area, so sister and brother went to spend time with Scott. It was kind of weird. Scott came back to the station when he was called for the second time with a different behavior. You can see in his demeanor that he is not interested in how the police is looking for Laci. However, that is not something that the police can use against him. But they were still suspicious of a husband that was not seemingly worrying about the wife and son. So they asked for a polygraph on Christmas. They actually asked for it on Christmas Eve. And he agreed. By the time that his family learned about it, his dad, Scott's dad, said no polygraph. The police said they just just wanted this to clear him out. But Scott's dad knew that if by any chance this showed up as he was not 100% honest about anything, that would put him in a bad spot. 2 days after Laci was reported missing, there was a press conference. And they basically went through that timeline that we already talked about. In the press conference, you can see how reporters really can't understand why a husband would leave the wife alone on Christmas Eve to go fishing. It was something that immediately raised a red flag for the media. Volunteers were gathering everywhere to look for her. They even put a volunteer center in a nearby hotel where they would take calls about tips, sightings, the people that thought that saw a pregnant lady with a dog walking in the area. By this time, Scott was still at his house. His family was there. They were making dinner. They were talking. And all of a sudden, the police shows up with a warrant. The police really was not only interested in the house, but in Scott's reaction after they got that warrant. His reaction was to immediately hire a lawyer. Now, you must understand, that by December 27, this is a pregnant girl that's been missing. And the media covered the search from the beginning. Everyone went crazy over it. Everyone wanted to know more about the case. They would have, their house was surrounded by all the small town media and big, like CNN. The neighbors basically had no life because they were constantly broadcasting from that house. When the media asks, Scott, hey, would you be willing to talk to us? You know how husbands usually do when the wives or family members of somebody that went missing and they plead, asking, please let them go, or if you're somewhere and you're watching this, come back. Well, you could see the family, Laci's family, going on TV everywhere where they would have them. It broke my heart to see the stepdad in one of those interviews, press releases that they did. How heartbroken he was. He was crying. He those interviews with Laci's family, they asked, do you think that Scott had something to do with this? And they immediately say, no. They're a happy couple. Scott, no. Now, to understand a little bit more, you have to know more about Laci. She was an horticulture major, so she again loved everything to do with the house. She also loved planting. She loved to be outside in the dirt, which I totally get. She was kind of my kind of girl. And it was said that in the beginning they didn't want to have children. I don't know if this was more on Scott's part or if it was a mutual decision. But then all of a sudden they decided to start trying, and she got pregnant. They got excited about being parents, and they were going to name that child Connor. So they're still missing Laci and Connor. There's not much evidence or physical evidence to go or work with. But now something gets leaked in the media about a burglary. The police was investigating this, maybe, and keeping it quiet for obvious reasons, but there was a burglary across the street from Laci's house. And this maybe had something to do with what happened to Laci. There was a witness, Diane Jackson, and she mentioned that on December 24th, she was going home and went by the Medina's house. She noticed some people standing on the lawn, which it seemed like out of the ordinary or something that the Medinas wouldn't do. She also saw a van and people around that van. They turned around and they stared back at her. When she heard that the home was burglarized, she called the police and gave a description of everything that she saw that day. That day is the day that Laci disappeared. The police was looking for this older, full-size van with 3 dark-skinned men. They were not African American. They seemed Latino, short. Maybe they started thinking they went to Laci's house and she was home, and so they took her or they attacked her. Maybe she saw something that she was not meant to see. I mean, there are 2 guys in custody, but the first thing that they said was, we had nothing to do with the pregnant lady. It was also said then that the burglary happened on the 26th and not the 24th. So it could have been that they came back on the 26th, and that's when it was reported. But witnesses placed this van and the burglars and everything on December the 24th. It was pretty clear to the police that this guy had nothing to do with Laci. And I am not sure in what they based that, but they immediately after cleared them. And now is when things are going to take a turn because of Amber Frey. By now, everyone was trying very hard to look for a pregnant mother that maybe fell and was hurt in the ditch, that maybe she had a medical emergency and she was unconscious somewhere. But it was really one of those things that they were hopeful. They thought this is a couple that it's very like the all-American couple. She is super pretty. The guy is handsome. They're young. They're expecting a child. They're living in a good town that takes care of each other. And now all of a sudden, things are going to take a turn with Scott. Now, Scott didn't need any help from Amber. And if you don't know who Amber is, I'll fill you in a little bit. Scott's demeanor was off. And while volunteers were searching, he would be kind of worried about things that he shouldn't worry. There was somebody in the police that said that he was going through the house in the car, and Scott was worried about having a coaster under the glass of that guy because he didn't want to ruin the furniture. When he opened the door of the car, he stood there just to make sure that it didn't hit anything, the door, and damage, that kind of thing, that it seemed very, very off from the beginning. Yes, they were the all-American happy couple, but there was something from the beginning that made Scott look very, very bad. The media was not helping. It was going crazy with the story. It was at the time that the war was making headlines, and all of a sudden this story took, all the headlines and developments, and it almost felt like, and if you were here in the States at the time, I don't want to say like the virus is right now or was in the beginning, but you could turn on your TV and you were likely to find a show at all times talking about new developments. Everyone was talking about it, and there were some press releases happening almost every day. There was no physical evidence in the house or cars or anything, so they needed the help from the public. So the police decided to release a picture of Scott's boat and his vehicle, his truck. They asked the public if they could call and if they find witnesses that would place him in those places to try to either clear him out or catch him in a lie. In that same press release, authorities said that they wanted people who could corroborate Scott's story from the 23rd to the 25th. But she went missing on the 24th. So, why are they now wanting to go back to the 23rd? Do they know something that the public didn't? In that same press release, they say that Scott is cooperating to an extent. Well, that's when things got bad, because the media took that statement and started painting Scott as the one that could have done it. Let's talk about this girl, Amber Frey. In the year 2002, she was putting herself through school, massage school. She had an 18-month-old daughter, and they lived in Fresno, California. She had a friend, and her name was Sean. Sean went to this conference that it was work related, and she met this guy. And she thought this guy is single and cute, successful. I think that you'd like him, she said to Amber. Now Amber, this is from her mouth, she was trying to settle, she was trying to, find that guy, the guy that she was going to stay with, and she thought, why not? Who's that guy, you're wondering? That guy was Scott Peterson. And he said to Amber that he was looking for the one. Great. Now she's looking for the one. He's looking for the one. Scott, you kind of found it already. You remember when you married Laci? But who am I to say that, right? Sometimes things don't work out, but you wouldn't be able to tell by talking to Scott or Laci, because apparently they were happy. Of course, Amber didn't know that the guy was married. I mean, he was looking for the one. Eventually, after this was in November 2002 when they met, so it's pretty recent that they started going out. And eventually Scott said, listen, I have to talk to you, Amber. I'd been lying to you. And you think that the guy was Christmas without his wife. But, he said this was over the phone. So he said I would explain more he says this over the phone. I'll explain more when I come back from Europe. This conversation happened 15 days before Laci disappeared. This is crazy, right? Either the guy is an amazing psychic that he's predicting the future. He can see things that we cannot see. Simple human beings like us. Maybe he's a special kind of guy and he can see. But what are we saying? How is this guy predicting that he will be a widow by Christmas? And if he made up that lie, if he was like, I'll lie to her because, I don't know, I'm bored, and then this happened and he didn't do it, what are the chances? What are the chances? So anyway, after Laci disappeared, Amber was not watching the news. You must understand that Amber looked like a very young girl who was working at a daughter, maybe not so invested in the news or the newspaper, so she had no idea about the Laci's Peterson case. So a friend shows up and says, look at this newspaper. It was presenting Laci's case. She had the same last name, Peterson, as Scott. In the article it said that he was a fertilizer salesman. They took a picture of the truck that he owned, and it was Scott's, or it looked like Scott's. But how is it possible that Scott has a missing wife if he's a widow? Amber could have been a little bit naive. Not saying that she was, I'm saying that she could have been. But she was no dumb. So she decided to call the police on December 30th, 2002. She calls the tip line and reported that she was having an affair with this guy, Scott Peterson. The police were like, oh my goodness, bingo, we got the guy. We knew something was up. So the police interview Amber, and they realized that gut feeling that they had, that something was off. It was for a reason. Scott was not the guy that he claimed to be. He lied to their faces that first night when he said that they were not having some problems in the marriage. And he definitely lied when he said that everything was perfect in their relationship. It was clear that something was not right and that he was looking for love somewhere else. At that point, the police asked Amber and to kind of stop her if she decided to go to the authorities and paint him in a bad picture and make the police more suspicious about him. Also, about the demeanor and the way that Scott was behaving, according to all accounts, it was off. And there's a valid question there that I asked myself, and I saw somebody else ask himself the same question. What if he was worried about the affair? Now, if this was happening to me and I was the one having the affair and I was the one who has a missing husband, yeah, I would worry. But I think it would have been more important to try to find my husband, father of my children, and who cares if people find out that I was having an affair. I think I'd be way too worried about finding my husband instead of thinking, oh, what is people gonna think about me if they realize that the perfect couple had a horrible marriage and I was cheating on my... Who cares? I don't care what people think about me. Me, personally, me, Laci, I don't care. If you want to judge me, you do you. If you have extra time that instead of spending on bettering yourself, on, trying you to be that better person, if instead of using the time on yourself, I am more important and you want to talk about my life, by all means, you do you, boo. You know what I mean? People said maybe the guy was acting that way because he was hiding the affair. Who cares about the affair? Yes, it makes him look bad, but I don't think that an innocent person would worry so much about being framed with the wife's murder. Unless, and I have to say it because otherwise I'd be a hypocrite sitting here telling you that this is not what I believe. Unless you are a part of a minority, unless you're black, unless you're Latino, but not if you're white. I think that sadly, even nowadays, 2020, minorities have the need or feel like they need to paint themselves in a good picture in order to avoid being judged more than white people. And I'm not saying this because I think this is okay. And no, because that's the world we live in. And I don't care what the color of your skin is. And I wish that nobody did. And that we wouldn't judge people because of how they look like or how much money they have. But I would understand if Scott was part of a minority, that maybe he was feeling the need to hide this affair because it was gonna paint him in a more horrible picture. But I think that people would have been okay. Everything, it's okay. You had an affair. You lied. That makes you look bad. No matter if you are white or part of a minority. It doesn't matter. You're lying. We're looking at you as a human being. And if he was so worried about his image and people believing that they had the perfect marriage when they didn't, then I think he was living in a fantasy, in a world that obviously he was kind of part of something that was not real. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? Because we all know that nobody has a perfect life. We all have some kind of a marriage problem. We either fight about the stupidest things, or we have addiction problems, or we have jealousy, or we have disagreements about how we raise our children, or we have disagreements because we want to paint the house white and the other one wants to paint the house gray. And you know what I mean? Every single marriage has a disagreement. And in some marriages, those disagreements take a new level. They become a problem. And some people find the solution in another relationship instead of working on the one that they have, which doesn't mean that you're a murderer. Doesn't mean that you're a murderer. And it doesn't mean that you want to get rid of your wife. It means that that's a way that you decided to go on to kind of quick fix your problem. Or maybe the guy was just a cheater, and you know. But I think that if the guy was a cheater and he had multiple affairs, they would have showed up in court just to show the jury the kind of character that Scott is. So yes, he was acting weird, and some people believe that he acted weird because he was hiding the affair from people, because he needed to show how perfect their lives were. And but you know, to some people that's more than enough to believe that that's why he was acting that way. I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But I think that before you make up your mind about Scott Peterson, you have to listen to the rest of the series. So please come back for part 2. Please also leave your thoughts down below. Do you think that the guy was hiding an affair? That's why he was acting that way? Or do you think that he was acting that way because he was guilty? He knew that this affair was going to put him under more stress with the police, and that eventually they were going to figure it out. Thank you so much for being here today. I am gonna go because yesterday I took the dog outside. There was dogs on both sides getting to him. I was pulling the leash and he threw me in the cement. So I am so hurting right now. My finger looks like a sausage because I was having the leash kind of around my wrist in one of the fingers, and I think I messed up my ligaments and now it's huge. I have scratches all over my left side. I feel crippled. I can't write. I can't use my right hand. So it's been hard to type and do everything to share with you guys. I had all the research, I just needed to put it all together. And it's been an interesting process. So I'm gonna go take a bunch of ibuprofen, hopefully to help with the inflammation, and I'll probably cry myself to playlist that will pop up on the top of the screen and down below so you can watch it from start